This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with
Apologies,
Emily D.
everyone.
And Pierre Novelty. You can text the show at 81215. Follow us on X and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email via frank at absoluteradio.co.uk. There's all your ways of getting in touch, and it's an interactive show in many ways. Yep. Otherwise, it's just three people in a room talking. Not that that wouldn't be brilliant, but with your input,
imagine,
it becomes post-brilliant. So my child is with me today, Boz. He's sitting in the corner eating peanut butter on toast. We went last night to see Back to the Future, the musical.
Oh, did you?
Which was, I have to say, tremendous.
Oh, is it?
And we went back. We went back and met the cast after, which was... I arrived, I suppose, as something from the 50s arriving in their midst. It was a very similar thing. It was great. It's very interesting seeing the cast in full outfit and makeup close up like that. You really feel, we had our picture, Buzz sat in the DeLorean and stuff like that.
Did the musical, like the film, retain the same, in hindsight, odd focus on Libyans? Libyan terrorists.
They don't feature.
Okay.
No, we were very obsessed by that in the 80s.
Yeah, what was that
sorry,
about?
I don't know. We'll sit down and explain one day to you. We couldn't help it.
No, I thought sensibly that strand was removed.
Yeah, when I watched it as a kid, I thought, oh, right.
But they very much retained the being hit on by your mother theme, which I thought might be tricky.
Ask, they kept that problematic aspect in.
Yes, in case you don't know Back to the Future, a young man goes back to the 50s from the 80s, where he meets his mother as a young girl, and she falls for him. And it's #orcs, as you can imagine.
And is there... I think I might go and see this.
Yeah. Don't let the sun... Yes, and it was...
Do they go for the Huey Lewis soundtrack?
They're all singing, all dancing.
Okay.
It's and I'll tell you what happened. I met Dr. Brown, who's the main, sort of one of the two main characters. And he said, "You got me a job once." And I said, "Really?" And I'll tell you what happened. He played Max Bialystock in The Producers, which is obviously a great part. But the reason he ended up playing it is Richard Dreyfuss was on my chat show, and he was struggling in rehearsals as Matt Bialystock. And to the point where he said, "Look, I'm begging your viewers, I need to tell them this. Don't come to the show for the first 6 weeks. It won't be ready." Apparently, the publicist was physically crying in the green room because it's like the worst. You go on a show and say, "Don't come," is a different... It's
worse than not getting on a TV show.
It is, yeah. It's anti-publicity. So he didn't last much longer, and then Dr. Brown stepped in.
Oh, right.
But it was brilliant. I mean, I don't want to give away, but it's like the whole theatre becomes a sort of a time travel capsule.
Was there... I'm trying to imagine where I would try and insert music into that film. Was there a sort of musical number where Dr. Brown explained building a time machine in a sort of fun way?
There's a very moving song about him saying this is for the dreamers, and he sings this song for everyone who's tried to do something that people have laughed at. I suppose from the same school as they all laughed at Christopher Columbus when he said the world was round. You know that song?
Wow. They all laughed at me this morning when I suggested a jacket swap with Buzz.
Yeah.
We both had denim jackets on, and we decided to swap. And to my absolute delight, I'm wearing it now.
Yes.
Now, it fits.
It
My
fit.
11-year-old's denim jacket fits the 67-year-old Emily D. That was I know. But I don't know how old.
I believe that.
I thought it was better to say an exaggerated age than an age.
I don't mind saying my age. How old am I? 53.
What do you mean, how old am I? You're better off sticking for 67 and saying how old am I. Don't get wandering off. Anyway, I'd very much recommend Back to the Future, the musical. Yeah, we rocked, and my 11-year-old liked it as well. I'm going to say loved it. But it's a great plot. I was talking the other day about the best plots ever. I bet you can't guess what I chose.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
So here's the thing: we were beautifully looked after at the theatre, and Buzz got ice cream, and Buzz has got a bit of an issue with cutlery of a certain nature.
Oh, I think I might share this issue.
Yeah, Buzz.
The wooden spoon.
He won't have wood against his teeth, so
Buzz,
he won't even have an ice cream that's got a stick on it.
Buzz, you're a man after my own cringing
get it.
heart.
Is it a splinter fear?
No, it's just the texture is just nightmarish. When I eat a Magnum ice cream, I wrap the wrapper around the hilt
Yeah,
of the ice
so
cream.
you can't even touch it with your
That
hand.
must look
If
not
I
at all
must.
weird.
If I must, if it's requested by the sovereign or whatever, sure, I'll do it. But I don't like it. And
Well,
the idea of putting it in, accidentally scraping it against
I
a
don't-
tooth.
You see, I because I'm a big toothpick user.
I like toothpicks.
What that don't make no sense.
It's something about the flat kind of wood grain
Oh no,
roughness of it.
it's flat. Is it surface area? Is that the problem?
Yes, we were just.
What about a takeaway chopstick of the cheap variety?
It depends how cheap. Yeah, they can be a problem.
Because sometimes they feel slightly plasticated, and then they're not so bad. I'm
Big
guessing.
fan of the plasticated takeaway chopstick.
Oh yes,
And all
we
of their
are.
albums.
No, we were talking about surface area earlier. That's the sort of thing me and Pierre sit talking about.
Yeah.
And Pierre said to me, of cheese, and I'm going to hand it over now.
Yeah, set of cheese.
I'm going to say this: the topic area is cheese surface area. Pierre.
What I have been told, and in my own experiments agree with, is that grated cheese is much nicer than just a slice or a chunk of cheese because there's so much more surface area. You get all the flavour.
Oh,
It all hits your
absolutely.
tongue at once. A little sprinkle of grated cheese in the mouth from the little packet.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, also the texture.
Yeah.
For me, Frank, it's so soft. It's like candy floss. When you first grate it, and I do, into a bowl, just so I can enjoy the sensation of picking it up.
Yeah.
I don't like the grating process though.
You find it great?
you
Just
know-
had to. Oh, I live for moments like that, and they don't need to come from me. I'm just happy that they're in the ether.
They're here, they're with us.
I bought when I'm not living with my partner, i.e., when I was in Edinburgh.
dear.
No, when I was in Edinburgh living on my own, I buy sliced cheese.
Oh, you don't.
I do.
You're better than that.
But that's what if. I'm always aware I do it slightly furtively. I always feel judged by other shoppers when how idle do you have to be to buy that? That kind of feeling.
That is fun, though, to take one of the pre-sliced cheese slices and sort of thwap it upon your tongue.
I've never.
Cloak.
Yeah,
I don't do that,
like
'cause
Walter Raleigh, throwing, just to get you across his tongue, Your Majesty.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
I want to tell you a story.
Oh. Max Bygrave's impression.
As my child's here today, I'm going to do some more Buzz themed stories. So this week, Buzz's friend Jude had got a birthday outing, right, to the cinema. So you know this sort of thing. The mom of the birthday child takes a bunch of kids and they go and see what would it be? Not the Lion King, but whatever the modern equivalent is. What's that one when you can see through all the characters that's around now?
Oh, you're
Oh, yeah.
Like the Smokables or something like that.
I don't like the sound of that.
The Vaporites.
The Elements.
The Elements.
The Elements.
Sorry, I got prompted by my 11-year-old. Just what you need for those moments. So he went to the cinema with his friends. I'll be honest, and this is the kind of bad parent I am. I never checked what the film was, but the mom who's in charge said it's an Agatha Christie, and her son loves a whodunit. So I thought, well, that'll be all right. And then I got a message from Victoria Corrin Mitchell, who said, I'm at the cinema to see a horror film, and your son is sitting behind me. And I thought, uh-oh. And she said, obviously it can't be that as frightening as I thought. And I thought, I didn't check what this was at all. So then I looked it up, and it's called A Haunting in Venice. And I thought, no. So anyway,
That's alarming, isn't it?
it is alarming because...
You don't want to see a haunting when you send your child off to the cinema.
No. So I should have checked this before, obviously. So they were we got the message saying...
Venice is reassuring, Frank.
Venice is... Have you seen Don't Look Now? I mean, Venice is a creepy place if you want it to be. I mean, just the courting couples
Yeah.
that are menacing enough. Did you see you have to get a ticket now to go to Venice?
Yeah.
Anyway, different story. So we got a message from the mom in charge, and she says, who's a very good friend of ours, she says... Well, she was before she took my child to a horror film.
A haunting in Venice,
Yeah, so
specifically.
she said we're on our way back. So Kat said, let's meet them on the way. We saw them coming down the street. And the kids, there was no gaps between the kids. They were so terrified. They were clumped together as they walked.
Sheet white.
I mean, all of them. We said what it was like. They were all going, oh, my God, it was terrifying. And apparently all of them slept with their parents that night. It was so. But when we got back, this was... so it's a 12A,
Is it?
which you'd think would be okay.
From the trailers, I'm surprised.
Well, when we got back, Boz made us watch a trailer.
Yeah.
What was it like? Was it terrifying?
Well, I don't know if you know the film. It features Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot. With them, I mean, obviously, when you think Poirot, you think moustache.
Yeah.
But, well, I'll tell you after this.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Buzz was returning from a haunting in Venice, is it called?
Yes.
Which sounds absolutely terrifying.
Well, when we got back, in order to prove that he wasn't just being a Nelly Bing Bong, he made us watch...
I don't know what that is, but it's in my life now. I'm
Yeah.
not letting that go.
He made us watch... something said it to me once. Someone said, oh, God, he's a bit of a Nelly Bing Bong. And it stopped. That's probably been 40 years ago, and it stopped with me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he showed us the trailer, and I saw the trailer, and I said, well, I wouldn't have gone to see this film myself. But... I was mentioning Hercule Poirot's moustache. Now I have a sort of a very indirect link with Hercule's moustache because I used to share a makeup artist with David Suchet.
That's a strange thing to boast about.
Yeah, and when they did the last Poirot, he got a very large version of his moustache woven for her as a sort of like a pair of bull horns to have on her wall.
Like a sort of insane sculpture.
Yeah.
Why would she want to be reminded of that.
I think the fact she was like, the moustache queen. She administered the moustache pre-records and stuff.
Moustache queen.
Because
Yeah.
Souchet's mustache did
That's a
look.
club, I think.
Mustache Queen is it's not far from where we're broadcasting now.
Vauxhall, I think, isn't it?
They're just leaving it as we speak.
But that, fair play. I mean, Souchet's mustache looked like a plastic sculpture stuck on his lip.
What? You can't say that about my makeup artist's
No.
artistry.
That's what I'm saying. It's so impressive.
Wasn't Souchet the one who he always spoke in the...
A little fake Belgian
Yeah,
voice.
he always spoke like that off camera.
he was
though.
very method, wasn't
That's
he?
what I've heard.
Yes, we've heard. I do hope it's
So
true.
he didn't. I think he just didn't want to lose his accent.
Could it be the same as Daniel Lewis? A little bit. It was a sort of mad, like Peter Sellers
Yeah.
sort of thing to maintain between takes.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis would have obviously taken on French citizenship and...
Belgian.
Oh, sorry, everyone. Sorry.
We're going to get all the Flemish people texting in now.
Oh, won't take long to read those. So anyway,
Kenny,
if
Kenny
you look...
Branagh.
So Branagh came on and I thought this is a whole new layer because Branagh looks like he thought during the break, after he got the job, he thought, I'll grow a moustache. So he looks like he's grown a big moustache. And then when he's got there, the makeup person has said, oh, we already got you a moustache. And he said, well, it's a shame to waste it. I'll wear that on the top.
Oh, no.
And that's what it looks like. Or maybe they got two makeup moustaches and he just couldn't decide. It's the most ridiculous construct I've ever seen of a moustache.
Was it like a sort of, this mystery will require two mustaches?
Exactly.
It's so scary and difficult.
Exactly. I will have so much twirling to do. This one will disintegrate.
He still feels too young. It's a bit like, when people say the bus drivers are getting younger or the postman or the policeman. I think, no, the
Poirots.
the day when Kenneth Branagh, the day when Kenneth Branagh is your age, is around your vintage and he's Poirot.
Isn't it just the
Poirots are getting
French
younger.
version or Belgian version of the police looking much younger? The Poirot.
Poirots are so much younger these days.
You've got to check out the moustache. I mean, make your mind up,
Okay.
Kenneth.
I'm just Ken.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Oh, for you, I'd leave it all.
I'd give you do. Yeah, that was George.
You all right, George?
George, yes. When you see George, you say, oh, nice to meet you. Hello, hello, how are you? Oh, I've been down to the cafe for a coffee. Yeah. Oh, all right.
Oh, I thought that was just for the songs.
No, the more I like this all time.
George,
What a discovery.
I know that's how you speak, but this is a eulogy. So I'd really appreciate it if you could give it some gravitas, please.
What, just hands over eyes? Hello.
God rest his soul. God rest his soul. So don't die if you're a mate of George Ezra. That's my advice. So yes, by the way, I need to defend my friend who took these poor children to a horror film. He said it was a 12A, and the 12A says under 12s is fine if you're with an adult.
If you're accompanied.
And that was wrong apart from the moustache, which would have terrified a Vietnam vet. There was a bit, they do that bit, we've seen this in horror films before, but 11-year-olds probably haven't. You know that thing when you look in the mirror and a terrible corpse person is standing behind you in the mirror? They had one of those moments.
Happens to me every morning.
Yeah. I wish mine would get behind me and stop standing in front of me. Oh, man, but that was a terrifying moment. So
I recommend to anyone who doesn't quite who thinks they can't picture the mustache to look it up. I gave it a look during the song.
No,
What, the Ken...
I'm not
I'm just
exaggerating. People
Ken
will think,
moustache.
he's exaggerating for comic effect.
No, it looks like two eagles mating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that Frederick Forsyth novel. Two eagles mating.
You see, my favourite Poirot was Peter Ustinov.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, it's got to be Suchet for me.
Really?
Yeah, I like that sort of prissiness and the ego thing going on. Anyway, apparently, Kenneth Branagh has decided this is the third in a trilogy of taking Agatha Christie stories and making them much more terrifying. Again, something I could have read before and saved my son. It's set, after all, in an abandoned orphanage.
Oh, sure.
Which was abandoned because they got the Black Death, so they just left the children in there. That was right. Yeah, I mean, you don't want that.
I mean, Trev in Canvey Island, Morning Trev,
Yeah.
late review, Frank. It's the third movie he's had that moustache in. I mean, that's a bit harsh.
Well, I haven't seen the first two, and I think that one landed on the second one. I think originally. Now that might be, yeah. Well, I didn't see the first two. If I'd seen the first two, I wouldn't let my child see the third. Ovs.
No.
Maybe the mustache wax he used on the first one was a sort of pheromone that attracted other mustaches.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they've
For
all
mating.
come to the party now.
Well, look,
Like a moth trap.
Yeah.
I can say I wouldn't have gone. I once went to see a film called Day of the Dead. I don't know if I told you this before. It was the sequel to
Dawn of the Dead.
It's one of those.
Yeah.
It was a lot of zombies. Well, I won't tell you what they were doing, but basically pulling people apart and eating them. I have told you what they were doing. and everyone's terrified behind an enclosure and there's living dead trying to get in and eat them. That's the gist of it.
Yes.
And I went to the toilet during the film, merely
Well,
to...
it was scary, you know.
But up to pass water. I was still in the cinema. I went into the cinema. Before I urinated, I kicked open every cubicle door to make sure there wasn't a flesh-eating zombie in there. Now, I know that sounds ludicrous, but here's the truth of it. You have to wonder a bit about people who like horror films. That's all I'm saying. There's a question mark.
Why do you think that?
Well, if you like horror films, maybe you like people suffering and violence.
Absolute Radio.
Is it too dark for breakfast? Too dark for breakfast?
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novelty. You can text us on 81215, follow us on X and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, email via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk.
Now, Frank, regarding your terrible slandering of horror fans,
Oh, yes.
Simon of Sudbury, one of our regular readers, gets in touch and says, "Hi, Frank, Emily and Pierre. I remember as a 3-year-old peering from behind the settee as William Hartnell fought the Daleks. So began my love of the horror genre." Absolutely.
Oh, come on.
Well,
Come on.
Well,
The thing about Doctor Who, which is particularly marvellous, and there's been like the odd slip when William Hartnell in the very first story was about to kill a caveman with a rock, but it didn't happen, is that the Doctor is a pacifist essentially. And in an age when it's all like pictures of men with big rifles on action hero movies, the Doctor with his, whatever it is, dicky bow or his velvet jacket, using science, I think is why Doctor Who has mainly survived amongst the intelligentsia.
Also,
rather
it's
than,
got that slightly adorable.
the thugs.
Forgive me, Frank, but it's got that slightly adorable element of school play. Which,
Well, maybe Classic Who has got a bit of that, but it's where that specky, clever science kid in the class gets to be all the big guys. Not that I was ever the science kid, but I'd rather he won than the sports guys.
Well, and Simon also says, absolutely agree with Buzz about the ice cream tub spoons. Nightmare.
It's there was this guy Armando who worked at the Adelphi, and he actually went off and got Boz a metal spoon. So because he noticed, he was a bit surprised that Boz had folded the lid of the ice cream in the middle and was scooping it out with
Smart.
that. And he said, "There is like a wooden spoon in there," and Boz said, "I know."
Yeah.
Like he'd said, "There's a spider in there."
I've bought, to combat the fact that with life on the road, I now, you try and eat healthily, but all the healthy food comes with wooden cutlery.
Yeah.
I've bought a sort of all-in-one spork thing.
Oh, a spork. I've actually got an 11th Doctor spork, which is based on his sonic screwdriver. But then, of course, the spork is the self-same runcible spoon, as mentioned in The Owl and the Pussy.
Is it?
Yeah.
The runcible spoon is a spork.
Runcible spoon is the same
why
thing.
did they have to rebrand it? Runcible, too
spork is more
complicated.
modern, yeah. Runcible.
Can't they just keep with the old things?
You can't sell an American a runcible spoon.
No.
You watch me try.
Just in the modern world,
Spork.
people say, "Oh, let's get a sport." They're not going to say, "Let's get a runcible spoon."
Always have to go for the portmanteau. Stick with the old way sometimes.
And I'm a man who owns a set of grape scissors. Which is specifically for
Maybe go to the
cutting.
doctor about that.
Cutting, yeah. Well, no, he gave them. He said, "We're so busy at the moment. We're so rushed off our feet in the NHS. You're going to have to do this yourself, mate." They've got grapes, ornate grapes all over the handles and stuff.
I don't want to know about that.
Yeah. That was when the NHS had money, when they were made.
Yeah. Oh my! Get them from the pharmacy.
We've received a lovely missive regarding your poetry podcast.
Whee!
Not the reaction I anticipated,
Here
but
we go.
nevertheless.
Let's see what we got here.
This is from Peter Wolfson, my last Duchess.
Actually, I've got to stop you. This is the last thing I want poetry associated with.
It really is.
This is for people trying to win talent shows on telly without talent, but with tragedy. Sorry.
Britain's got tragedy.
I like to think that this is a bit more what the poetry show is like.
Elizabeth Barrett Browning.
Yeah.
So Peter Wolfson, we don't normally do praise, but I like to make an exception for the poetry podcast.
Well, it's such an obscure activity of mine. I think it can take a bit of praise.
Also, it's fabulous. Come on. And Peter says, your poetry podcast is wonderful. Thank you so much. Your analysis, explanations, and sheer enthusiasm are so inspiring.
My arms are raised. Muhammad Ali style.
And then a fabulously middle-class sign-off, which I love. I'm going to call it the Waitrose of sign-offs. Incidentally, I will purchase Gene Spracklin's Green Noise. Thank you once again, Peter Wolfson.
Good, I'm glad you will. That's a fabulous poetry collection.
Brought poetry alive again to Peter.
There was a bunch of youths got on the bus last night. And, I did that thing you do, you stereotype youths as youths. And one of them got off through the back door of the bus, got off on that and shouted, "Thank you, driver," which is something I haven't heard for years that old people used to say, but still the old politeness. So, don't judge.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank,
I spoke this
Trevor
morning.
McDonald.
I spoke this morning with the German Chancellor, Herr Hitler. I didn't like him, I'll be honest. What if he'd said that? I didn't care for him. I found him brusque.
He didn't have a Branner moustache.
No, but he didn't have. He didn't have the one moustache. He just put the glue. He only put the Velcro on and then forgot the main moustache. Hitler.
Also, one of the funnier choices made in his life by Robert Mugabe, just to go, you know what? I'll bring it back. It's got no negative
Why
associations
do
as
they
far as
like a
I'm aware.
moustache, the dictators, Frank?
I don't know the answer. They don't all go for it, do they?
Oh, they
Good
do.
visual branding.
Do you think that's what it is?
I think that's part of it.
Okay.
that's
Any
part of it.
dictators, don't text
I
in.
think dictators probably like people to go to fancy dress parties as them. So they go
Yes.
for a very distinctive look.
Yes, they always go for a sort of easily cosplayable look, don't they, the dictators? I'm not saying that's why they become the
Remember
dictator.
Colonel Gaddafi used to have a big shirt with Africa on it?
Yes, big green Africa.
But yeah.
He loved
Say,
that.
say what you see, Colonel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Was he worried about getting lost? he travelled. He liked to fly completely comatose. That was his sort of label. He was like Paddington Bear with that label.
It should have been like a nurse's watch, an upside down Africa, so
Yeah.
you could look and go, ah, yes.
Oh, I'll tell you what I saw the other day. A watch being worn. Do you remember this? Where the actual buckle would be on the top of the hand, and they'd have the watch face was underneath the hand, and they'd look at it. I think it was blokes in factories wore them because they thought it was less chance of it getting broken.
Yeah, you're getting scratched.
I
Yeah.
saw one the other day, and I thought, oh, people still wear their watch sort of upside down, as it were.
I was thinking the other day that it's a thing
Don't
now
exaggerate.
Oh, please. The watches are sort of almost jewellery now because you have a clock on your phone.
Yeah.
So it's a choice to wear a watch. Where you go, I'm going to wear a watch and have
And
a
let's face
double
it,
watch.
Yeah. I always worry about people that are very, very obsessed by watches. You know, they turn it into a sort of, they treat it like it's art or something.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think it's not as worrying as horror films. They're not
got a real
saying.
thing about
They're not
horror
saying I love to see people frightened or tortured or eaten.
What if you were at a horror film and you turned and you saw a man so bored by the violence he was checking his enormous elaborate watch every now and then? You'd be
I don't
terrified.
mind the watch. I mean, I have no interest in watches, but I don't mind other people risking attack.
Oh,
by
it is a
wearing them.
certain type. No, but the watch obsessive is in the same It is in the same area as the cigar smoker of the year. Come on,
Yes, definitely.
come on, Frank.
Yes, I had a good watch once, which was bought at the end of a TV series. The sort of series gift was a good watch. When I say a good watch, a sort of name, I was told it was a name watch. And it was quite a fat, impressive-looking watch. It's the most rubbish timekeeping watch I have. I had it mended about 4 times and gave up in the end.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, I actually got a chance, by the way. Bob Monkhouse gave me a watch, and of course I immediately went to have it valued. And the guy said, we can clean it for you. He said, but we'll put the face on properly. He said, if you pay a bit extra, we'll seal the whole thing, and you'll be able to swim in it. And I actually got the chance to say, well, that's weird, because I couldn't swim before. And as you can imagine, in quite a nice jeweller's, it got nothing. Absolutely nothing from the guy.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
This is nice from the Cricklewood Coffee Roasters. I thought it was a band, but I think they might actually be coffee purveyors. And agreeing with you about what a great show Back to the Future the musical is. Couldn't agree more. Coco Anglais is as fantastic as the dog.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's. I got a feeling he was someone who was using the lines but wasn't constricted by them, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I like those people.
So he'd overspill into natural talk sometimes, which made it more real. That was my opinion.
We've had our readers getting in touch about previous things we've discussed on this
Didn't
show.
someone say, by the way, didn't someone do a calculation about...
We did. We had someone getting in touch regarding Back to the Future. And
This is mind-blowing, I think.
it is slightly frightening.
Because in the musical and in the film, I think he goes from 1985 and he goes back to 1955.
And 864 has been in touch to say if the film was made now, Marty McFly would be travelling back to 1993. That's Paul in Preston.
That is mad.
That is mad. Because then you don't think, well, there's nothing different then. Everything was exactly the same in 1993, which of course it wasn't.
The musical difference would be that he'd be going back and trying to like pretend an affection for his parents' love of grunge
Yeah.
and
Yes.
Nirvana.
Exactly.
And then he'd have
And D. Ream, things can only get better.
Yeah.
He'd have to introduce them to like dubstep or something.
More
Well,
importantly...
listen to this.
More importantly, I'd be massive.
Frank, it'd be great for you.
It would, yeah. I could play me in 1993, and then
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
find me sort of broken down at the end of a bar into 2023.
God.
Who would be Biff would just be Donald Trump in some form.
We should say of Biff is the school bully, and I saw a bloke in the theatre who looked, and I heard him talking to a friend who seemed to be a very macho type.
You say he
man.
was Biff-esque.
Yeah.
Well, this was a punter, was
And I
it?
and I
Fellow
noticed
punter.
he was laughing at Biff, and I thought, no, you're Biff. You're one of the Biffettes. You should be pro Biff. But Buzz loved Biff.
What, Biff the character? or-
The guy who played Biff in it was a very believable Biff.
Did he have that sort of slightly unsettlingly closely gelled kind of blonde quiff?
Yeah, I mean, it was a wig.
Oh,
But
right.
he had... He was big. He was one of those blokes who just was big in context with everyone else in the thing. He looked like he could terrorise a class.
Did he sing a sort of bullying song? I love to push the nerds, like some whole number
He
about
did
how
sing
good
a
bullying
song.
is.
I'll have a look. We have the souvenir programme with us, so I'll check it. Yes, it's a great defence of bullying, he sang.
And in falsetto as well, which is strange.
An elaborate, heartfelt defence of...
Push the nerds. Just a beautiful falsetto from this enormous
Yes. Yeah. Now, they fell short of the justification for Biff.
Frank Skinner.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Do you remember last week we were talking about characters not seen on screen, so referred to on screen but never seen?
Yes. I think we referred to her indoors was one of the ones.
Maris from Frasier.
Yes.
Well, that was your one.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We didn't really know that, but we let it go. She who must be obeyed.
From
Rumpole.
Rumpole of the Bailey.
Although we were widely disagreed with on that.
Well,
Were we?
why?
She was seen doing washing up and chatting to him a few times.
Oh, okay. Well, I missed that episode.
Me lad.
Well, we've also had through some other examples. Graham Hill has been in touch. Dirty Gertie from Number 30.
Right. Which was Basil Brush, is that right?
Yes.
I got mixed up. I thought it was Larry Grayson. Larry Grayson used to refer to Slack Alice, who was a woman, and his friend Everard, if you remember.
Did he have a friend?
Well, yes.
Oh.
That's what we called them in the 70s. And that was Everard, yes.
I love the idea of they used to call it, or my aunt, who's, I think twee would be a good way to describe her. And I remember her saying to my sister once when she was dating, and at the age where my aunt felt uncomfortable, she didn't know how to refer to their relationship, they were living together, and she said, "Is Ziggy still your best friend?"
Ah.
Best friend.
Oh, best friend.
I moved in with a woman, and my parents, being good Catholics, never acknowledged that it was happening at all. Refused to even refer to it. And then she said to me one day that my dad took her to one side and said, never let him leave the house without a clean handkerchief. And then that was when it was first acknowledged.
By a handkerchief. A sort of semaphore.
Yeah, exactly.
And in terms of other not on screen but referred to, Dermot has got in touch. Kath and Buzz. Unseen, but very, very important characters in the show.
That is a good point.
Well.
That is a very good point. And also, Emil just came in, who did the show previous to us, and he said, now we're going to remember the name of this, someone from Chucklevision, Dan the Van.
From Chucklevision.
Yeah, Dutch character.
Dan the Fan.
Dan the Van.
Yes, which I didn't. I don't know if I ever saw Chucklevision, but I had a very good friend who used to write for Chucklevision.
Some of my best friends did as well.
Well, you wouldn't. She was, sort of very cool,
What is
slightly goth
Chucklevision?
type.
What is it, Chucklevision?
The Chuckle Brothers. It was their show.
I
To
never
me, to
knew
you.
that.
What is Chuckle? Who is Gaza?
I don't. Oh, come on, that's hardly the same thing.
I think Chucklevision is part
Was
of
it?
British culture.
Is it?
I'm very aware of Chucklevision.
Was it on ITV? Oh, okay. No one knows what it was on.
What about when he was on?
BBC.
What was he on? Fans Only or whatever that thing is called.
Cameo.
OnlyFans.
Only
He wasn't on a... The Chuckle Brothers aren't on OnlyFans.
No, he was on one of those.
Frank, they haven't got an OnlyFans.
To me, to you, £5 a month.
If you want to find out more
Yeah.
from me to you,
Yeah,
and I will be sending it directly from me to you. Don't worry about that.
Oh, I've dropped a big chandelier. I've got stuck in a ladder.
Yes, but now chlamydia from me to you, you to me.
No.
I think they changed their surname slightly as well.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
By the way, my son held up a message during our talk about off-screen characters.
He held in his hand a piece of paper.
He did, and he said it says Paul McCartney in Muppets Mayhem, and apparently he was an unseen character, much referred to, but never appears.
And 225.
What time does Paul turn up? It was like that.
225.
That was George Ezra. He was in it.
Asking about his driver. 225 has got in touch. You never saw Dr. Claw in Inspector Gadget, although you did see his arm and his cat. Did you watch him? You seem a bit... You
Can you
strike me...
say you never saw him, but you did see his arm? Is there a logic issue in that?
I think he's still unseen. We couldn't pick him out of a lineup, which must have been
An arm
Dr.
lineup.
Claw's
I
plan
could.
all along. I did watch Inspector Gadget. I did see that.
Yeah, I didn't, but I remember it existing.
He had a kind of...
I'm sure I'll be very thrilled to hear that.
Well, I was the wrong age for
Wouldn't we
Gadget.
with the wrong age?
I think he had a
for
very
Gadget?
famous voice actor doing his voice.
Really?
I think so.
I'm enjoying the idea of referring to him as Gadget.
Yeah.
The thing was
So we're giving him
Gadget.
some gravitas he perhaps doesn't quite deserve.
No,
let's be
I
honest.
was at public school with him.
Where did you school, Gadget?
He was Gadget Minor. I knew his brother, Gadget Major, who...
Are you from the Hampshire Gadgets?
That Gadget Major is the sort of name a US senator would have.
yeah,
He's got
Gadget...
such mad names.
Gadget Major invented the Scion organiser.
Now listen,
And
David.
the BlackBerry. Whatever happened to the BlackBerry? Remember there was a big battle like Blur and Oasis with the iPhone
Yes.
and
Oh,
the
yeah.
BlackBerry.
They
Who
were very-
won, would you say?
David Tucker from Caerphilly has been in touch
Okay.
regarding Dracula. Hi, Frank. Just messaging to say your Dracula version of Unforgettable has been on a loop in my head for about 4 days now. I can't get rid of it. I've even added That's why, darling, it's spectacular. As a next line.
Oh, and then we know what's coming.
Would you be so kind as to give us a brief burst, Frank?
Well, the headline was vegan Dracula.
Yeah, vegan
so
Dracula.
I said that immediately made me think, partly because of the C sounds or something, but vegan Dracula, that's what you are.
I was banned by my partner from singing that.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, after about half a day of...
So it did catch on.
Oh, yeah, I was walking around my flat.
Darling, it's spectacular. You remain a vegan Dracula. I can think of another rhyme, but not for breakfast.
Oh, no.
Maybe you could pass that spatula now.
But not wooden.
Oh, not the wooden spatula, not for my child or Pierre.
No.
No.
I will need to get to the bottom of sometimes I'll have a lollipop with a wooden stick and I'll just chew the wooden stick after for pleasure.
Oh, the sort of rolled paper tube stick.
We're all so different, aren't we?
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
It's not October yet, but there's been some quite Halloween-y stories around. I don't know if you saw about the Mexican aliens.
No, the Mexicalians.
The Mexicalians.
Yeah.
the UFO community. They've had a big week. Bless
The
them.
UFOC.
Well, I
Do you
met
like UFO people, Frank?
I interviewed some alien abductees once. I thought that'd be an interesting thing to do.
How
It
was it?
wasn't.
You know what I noticed about aliens? They've always got very skinny legs.
Yeah.
Like, why, is there no
Well,
one with
that's
any
because they've
curves
got
in
those-
the alien community?
They've got those little hover cars, so
Yes.
they never really build up the
Have they?
calves.
They skip leg day.
Yeah,
Got
exactly.
very thin legs, haven't they? Anyway,
Well, we should say that they found. They're actually.
Have
they found some dead aliens.
Down a sort of mine.
We got in a mine.
alien corpses.
Well, they're sort of.
That wasn't me insulting you two.
I suppose you'd call them fossils because they're
Yeah.
old aliens.
Yes.
Yeah.
I must admit, you don't get many alien fossils.
No.
And these guys, they're 2 feet tall, which is a big plus if you're in the mining business.
Yes.
Yep. They're
And
very 6 weeks till OMG diet.
yes,
They're very fashion week. There's
Yes.
not a lot of flesh on
they're,
those aliens.
they're slim.
Yeah.
And one of them contains eggs.
Oh, that's
Allegedly.
nice. That's gross.
No,
Alien eggs.
they've
I don't even
X-rayed.
like aliens, let alone alien eggs.
No, but what's interesting is they looked. You know, there's that very specific rough cast grey cardboard that you only get on egg boxes. They look.
Yes.
Could they possibly be novelty egg boxes?
Sort of
One
from
of them's been emptied and the other one's still got the eggs in it.
You're saying that what we're missing here is the real story, that the Aztecs had novelty egg boxes hundreds of years before anyone in the West.
And they use that same egg box cardboard, which you never see on anything else except a teenage boy's wall when he's trying to soundproof it for band practices with
Yeah.
egg boxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, though?
Yes, yeah.
You do get, like, neater ones sometimes, but the traditional egg box cardboard is a real rough,
Oh, yes.
rough grey thing, and that's what they look like, these guys.
It's just only a slightly more benign version of sandpaper, really.
Well, it looks like we've thought, well, it's not worth making anything nice for the eggs. It's
Yeah.
very practical, so we'll use that really cheap cardboard.
It's like Doll's House concrete or something.
Yeah,
That's what it looks
recycled.
like.
Yes.
Do you
yes.
think the aliens... Because well, the producer keeps laughing at every mention of the aliens for some reason. Because they look also, those aliens, Frank. Do they do sort of cosmetic surgery, aliens? They look quite tweakmented.
Do you think they've had work?
Very cheap work.
Alien fossils who've had work.
I think they might have had an upper brow lift, one of the aliens.
Really?
Yes, I could tell. And there was just the...
They do
maybe-
resemble some of the Real Housewives.
Yeah. I'm just saying, maybe
They've
a little
got-
bit of filler. They've got aliens. Calm down on the filler.
I'd say the distinct thing about them is their head shape.
Yes.
You remember I said to you, I have trouble at the opticians because my head is deep.
Yes.
Goes back a long way. These guys, where they're getting their stems from, I don't know, because their heads just keep going. It's like they're looking out of a microwave at you.
You said, I like that. You said that like a sort of a 50s guy describing a hot dame. Oh, that head just keeps going.
Head for days.
But yeah, maybe we should re-record that bit.
Oh,
I wouldn't like it used as a trailer.
Oh, Frank, for heaven's sake.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So these aliens, we're talking about the newly discovered alien corpses, who
Yes.
I suspect have dabbled with some treatments.
But how do you how do you explain the long heads? Do you think they were fossilised whilst... I think they're mods. They're in snorkel parkers and it's all just become rock.
What I want to know is why they were buried. Like, they were discovered apparently 1,000 years ago. They date from, I apologise, from 1,000 years ago, these
But
fossils.
they were in a mine, so that's probably why they were
Oh, I
buried.
see.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
They were mining.
They
Yeah.
were the mining aliens. I didn't know they had jobs, the aliens.
I'm picturing
Well,
them sort of...
according to Eric von Daniken, who wrote Chariot of the Gods, which is a book that everyone used to read at school.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, that was one of our non-fiction books, along
that like
with
Skinhead Escapes?
Fire from Heaven. Well, that was fiction.
Oh, yeah.
Fire from Heaven was spontaneous human combustion when people just burst into flames. But Eric von Daniken had hard evidence that things like Stonehenge had been done by aliens.
Yeah.
So they did do it. They were in the construction business, so I don't see why they couldn't have got into mining.
They're very blue-collar aliens, aren't
They
they?
are.
It's always big construction project, mining. There's a sort of Billy Elliot
What I like
aspect
is
to
I thought they were yes.
What happened to the alien that wanted to dance?
And also, Pierre, you'd have also, you'd think that aliens wouldn't be cut out for things like erecting Stonehenge when they're tiny.
Tiny legs.
Tiny legs.
I
They
know.
don't have much
No, but
muscle.
I think they use, because they got these massive head brains with the long brain.
Yeah.
They probably used the poor caveman.
Yes, as labour.
Whoever it was. Or I think that Eric said they also built the pyramids. So they would take
They
the.
lay claim to everything
the
without hard
Egyptians.
evidence.
Well, he had some good aerial photograph. His argument was, you couldn't plan something like Stonehenge if you couldn't look down on it from about 1,000 feet.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Which it always fascinates me that when you think of the past and how different it was, one thing you never think of is people saw virtually everything from no higher than a couple of floors up. That was as high as they ever went.
But it's like saying, well, you couldn't plan Buckingham Palace without looking at it from 1,000 feet. You go, well, they did. Of course they did. They just drew it.
He's
and
not
planned
wrong,
it.
Frank.
Are you suggesting that Eric von Daniken is offering some erroneous arguments in his book about aliens building the pyramids?
I'll tell you who
Eric
does...
von Daniken, can I say, was one of those blokes who dressed all in leather and had a monocle and used to carry a riding crop and all. I mean, he
God.
absolutely bought into that German stereotype.
Oh, right. A sort of Prussian lunatic.
Yeah, like he'd had dueling scars from military
wow.
colleges. I don't know where he was a very odd man.
The aliens are blue collar, working class, but they cannot do the labour themselves. That kind of thing.
That was Eric. He was quite pro-alien, to be fair. It wasn't
he?
true of all Germans.
No. God.
I was going to say, could you imagine Donald Trump's reaction to hearing there's a whole new type of Mexican alien for him to worry about?
Terrible,
Yeah.
terrible people.
Could they build a wall?
They found in a mine. Long heads. Longest heads.
Very long, very long.
Very long heads.
Very, very terrible
People are saying the longest heads.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So
Okay.
we're still discussing the aliens, Frank.
By the way, we had a nice message from Emile Franchi, who is our colleague, who was listening to us in McDonald's. He went straight from his show before us to McDonald's, which I love him for, and sent us a nice message that he was enjoying the show. So that was nice. Do you think he had a happy Emile?
Oh.
I wonder what his go-to order is. He's in such great shape. I'm surprised he went to McDonald's.
Is he one of those people who's got one of those metabolisms where you can just eat McDonald's and then that won't last, of course?
The lucky ones.
Well, he'll hit 40 and
Explode.
exactly.
Well, these aliens had fabulous metabolism. They've got 1,000-year-old rib
that,
cages.
Yeah.
I'm imagining them with
Their
a sort of...
proportions are rather strange, I find.
Well, they're
Yeah.
2 feet tall. They've got their heads just keep going off into the distance. From
Very dry skin.
very, very dry skin. 3 fingers,
Yeah.
so they could still potentially 10-pin bowl.
And measure whiskey.
Yeah, exactly.
These 2 things are not beyond them.
But a man who has sort of revealed them to the world apparently was involved in a hoax.
Well, that's not a good sign.
Well, it was
before.
debunked.
Yeah, he was debunked.
Well,
sure-
I'll tell you who has come out to slam the claims
Oh,
Go on.
is the artist formerly known as D. Ream, Professor Brian Cox.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
has he done it in a sort of slightly high-pitched, soft Yorkshire accent?
No, he's done it with that slightly unsettling Jesus Army smile that he always has.
There's absolutely no way. These aliens
He says they are way too humanoid. He says they're way too humanoid. And then he says...
Do you mean way too humanoid?
You say that about everything, Brian.
Is a humanoid even a thing? That sounds of something like sort of
That
Plan
is
9
Doctor
from
Who.
Outer Space. Yeah, it's a bit Gallifrey, isn't
But what's
it?
accepted in
Humanoid.
science fiction is that some aliens, have got 9 eyes on the end of purple stalks, and some have just got like they can't bend their little finger. It's there's a whole range.
Well-
Statistically, they must be.
He continues. It's very unlikely that an intelligent species that evolved on another planet would ever look like us. Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I think that is that sounds convincing until you actually think about it. Because if you think that there's a unique set of conditions, seemingly almost unique, let's say, benefit of the doubt to other aliens that have created life on this planet, distance from the sun, and etc., then you'd feel that if that happened elsewhere to produce life, it's quite possible they could develop the same way as us.
Yeah.
But why aren't they wearing hard hats, Frank?
Why are you wearing... Oh, that's your hair. No, he's a lovely man. But, he's probably a bit threatened by this because his programmes are going to look pretty lame if we find out there's aliens knocking about.
Going on about the type of gas on something.
When we
Yeah,
suddenly-
exactly. When you could have talked about their little cars.
His programmes are going to be interrupted by citizens of Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Where will you be then,
No,
Coxie?
it's going to be pretty lame, doc, all that stuff. What about... I'm interested in Professor Nick Pope. Have you read about him? He's the
goalkeeper.
He's no, not the Newcastle goalkeeper, but a UK. I think they're called ufologists. The UFO people. Oh, they don't call them UFOs anymore, do they? They call them unidentified anomalous phenomenon.
UAPs.
Yeah.
UAPs.
Sort of. But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what Nick Pope said after this. If Pierre doesn't look it up in the meantime, I'm going to hold his hands behind his back.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
I'd like to see a
like
remake
to
of Billy
see-
Elliot based around these aliens.
How would that work?
Well, there's an alien who wants to dance.
Oh,
and
I don't want a dancing alien.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
yeah.
Oh, I don't.
You'll not be dancing. No alien son of mine will they'll keep calling. Even though they're aliens, then they should not perceive themselves as such. They'll keep referring to each other as aliens for the benefit of the viewer.
Well,
I can't. What I don't get about aliens, perhaps, I mean, this is much more your area, Frank, than let's face it, any of ours. But
Well, I only know fictional ones. I'm not really interested.
as opposed to the real ones.
Yeah. Well, if there were real ones.
Bona fide aliens.
I just remember that moment from Independence Day when people get on top of the Empire State Building with big signs saying "Welcome aliens," and they just completely blast them to pieces.
Well, that's the problem. I just find them a bit unpredictable.
Yeah, I think that's true.
You never know what you're going to get with these types. And sometimes they're perceived as very sort of benign and friendly and we have much to teach you. And then you get the evil ones. How do you know which one you've got?
I suppose you find out if they're the evil ones rather quickly.
But you get the peacemakers. Because you get the, I used to be the RSC alien ambassadors who are like the older guys.
Yes, yeah.
Who come and say things like, we come here in peace and we wish to share our civilization with you.
They say things like, our world was once like yours.
Yes.
Riven by conflict.
And then they say, we are not so different, you and I.
Yeah. That. Which I won't even take from an RSC actor. Anyway, Nick Pope.
Yeah.
Nick Pope said... he said, well, I think of Occam's razor when I read about these
That's good
aliens.
For a goalkeeper.
Now, I thought of Pierre immediately, and I thought, who do I know who would know what that meant? Do you know what it means?
Yes, if there is the simplest solution is probably the right one. The simplest and most logical answer is probably the answer.
Yes, which... in a week where my son went to see an Agatha Christie, I thought that really doesn't work in whodunits, does it?
No.
Because I imagine in the real world, that person who had a massive argument with the victim that same afternoon and was seen running out of town covered in blood probably did it.
Yeah.
According to Occam's razor.
Yes.
But in a whodunit, it's never that. I mean, did a real policeman ever say, well, it's a bit too obvious?
Yeah. That's true. The entire genre exists to defy Occam's razor.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's why it does slightly interfere with my enjoyment of any Agatha Christie or murder-based thing, is just writing off the most obvious characters from the start. And I find that very distracting.
The townspeople always hated that guy who's now being blamed. They never trusted him. They always thought he was a loser.
Yeah.
And doesn't it just suit their agenda now to see him as the murderer? Just because it was his knife and he's covered in blood and the guy hated him and he's just bought a train ticket out of town.
And his long-standing animosity with everyone involved.
And the fact they were going out with the same woman just for those minor circumstantial reasons.
Have we learned nothing?
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
We spoke the other day. You were slamming, to use tabloid headline terminology, the world of orchestra musicians because you saw some that their big selling point was how they had actually learned the song.
Yes, and then it
thought
occurred
it was
to me.
very cheating of them. The fact that
To be
they
on
used
script forever.
music.
It had occurred to me that classical musicians have just thought, oh, I'm not bothered learning it. I'll just read it off the sheet music.
Well, so right of reply.
Yeah.
We got a message from Matt, who's from Lichfield, but lives in Berlin now, having married a German violinist.
Oh, that's nice.
Moving up in the world.
Papers, please.
I like that. That's very romantic.
He says, hi, Frank, Emily and Pierre. I'm going to give a précis of this. We're in the final link, of course.
Okay.
I played my wife your podcast and asked her about the need for sheet music. So this is from the wife. This is passed on by Matt. A classical orchestra may play hundreds of different pieces every season, normally a different set each week. This large amount of music means there is not enough time to memorize the pieces, unless, of course, your orchestra only focuses on a handful of pieces.
I used to do, when I hosted...
It's a slight jab there.
I used to host... I used to host a different show every week, and did 25 minutes of new material every week, written by me, which they don't. And
Okay, we've all had a drink.
The other point,
and
made-
also, if you're in a repertory theatre, let's say you're at the RSC, you could be doing Richard II one night, Richard III the next.
the other point that is made is about making sure that all 60 or 70 people are synchronized. It's more about making sure they're all literally on the same page.
Well, again, this orchestra learnt it. And that happens.
Only
If you-
this one piece.
If you go and see Hamlet...
Look, I don't want it all kicking off in the pit.
Just ein piece of music.
I think when people are finally caught, they should put... It's like... I wish the classical musicians would take a leaf out of the book of the basketball world where you hold your hand up and say, yes, it was a foul.
We've been getting away with it for all these years.
Yeah, we've been getting away.
Hands up.
Fair cop. That's what I want to hear from the classical music world.
Frank, before we go, I need to share this. You might be embarrassed by this.
I
but
should say Emily's holding a massive spliff.
for God's sake, Frank. This is from Thomas Hutchinson. You'll be embarrassed. I don't care. The world needs to know this because this is incredible. Dear Frank, I recently received my GCSE results, and in English literature, I got an 8. That's between an A and an A star for the older people. Thank you, Thomas. I didn't need that.
I did.
So did I. I believe I can say that I received this high mark due to listening to your poetry podcast, which totally helped me understand the poems and learn something about the poets. Before I started listening, I didn't even understand poetry. Your podcast has allowed me to get the message from all the poems. Thank you, Frank, for my high grade.
Wow. Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's a strange ending for
I
the
know,
show.
I'm sorry,
but no,
but I
that's
had to
lovely.
share
That is lovely. We come to the end of another show. It's been absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for listening. Listen again. If the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now get out.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.